All right, the time is 5:01 p.m. and it's May the 17th. We'll now call this special called meeting to order. Will the City Secretary please call the roll?
Mitchell, Rizzo,
Present.
Ellison,
Present.
Flores-Cale. Here. Bradshaw,
Here.
Parsley,
Present.
Tobias.
Here.
Okay, at this, we have 5 members present. We have 6 members present. We have a quorum. At this time, the City Council welcomes concerns from citizens early in the agenda, special meetings. Those wishing to speak are encouraged to sign in before the meeting begins. Speakers may be provided with an opportunity to speak during this time period or during the agenda items or any other matters concerning the city business. And they must observe the 3-minute rule. At this time, do we have anyone signed up? Seeing none, I'll now close the citizens' comment. Citizens' comment period is now closed.
Next executive session, pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, the City Council reserves the right to convene into executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting. The City Council may convene into executive session pursuant to any lawful exceptions contained in Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, including any or all of the following topics: pending or contemplated litigation or to seek the advice of the city attorney pursuant to Section 551.071. Communications protocol with the city manager and city attorney, with Mirror Park Development Agreement, Combined Emergency Communications Center, intersection at RM 150 and Silverado, cost number 22-0873, the state of Texas, Excel, Real 1200 South Old Stagecoach, LLC versus City of Kyle, Texas, ETJ swap, cost number 21-2336, John D. Ferreira versus J. Scott Sellers, city manager for the City of Kyle, Texas, Stoddard Construction contract, and convening to executive session pursuant to Section 551.087 Texas Government Code to deliberate regarding the offer of economic incentives to one or more businesses prospects that the city seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or the near city. Project Fire Engine Red, Project French Line.
We'll now resume our special called meeting. There was no action taken in executive session. There will be action taken now on item number 3. Scott?
Agenda item to the next meeting.
Okay.
Motion to postpone this agenda item to the next scheduled council meeting, regularly scheduled council meeting.
We got a motion by Councilmember Ellison. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Parsley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn. We have a second by Councilmember Flores-Cale. Sorry about that for a minute. Yeah, definitely. Okay. We are now adjourned. Just give it a few minutes while the tape rolls over. The time is 7:04, 17:22. We'll now call this regularly scheduled meeting to order. We'll all raise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will City Secretary please call the roll?
Mitchell, Rizzo,
Present.
Ellison,
Present.
Flores-Cale. Here. Bradshaw. Here. Parsley.
Present.
Tobias.
Present.
We have 6 members present. We have a quorum. Every council member is allowed 2 excused meetings. A motion to excuse.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Nay. Motion passes 5-1. At this time, we will move to approval of the minutes.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes for city council meetings for April 11th, April 19th, and special regular meeting for the same dates.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I had a motion by Councilmember Tobias, second by Councilmember Parsley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes 6-0. At this time, we'll open the floor to citizen comments. The city council welcomes comments from citizens early in the agenda of regular meetings. Those wishing to speak are encouraged to sign, and before the meeting begins, speakers may be provided with an opportunity to speak during this time period on any agenda item or any other matter concerning city issues, and they must observe the 3-minute rule. Please direct your comments to the Mayor Pro Tem and council.
Mr. Chair, point of order, there was 5 members on the board, so the minutes were passed 5-0.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see someone had moved. Thank you, Councilmember Ellison. Did you get that, Jennifer? Did you get that? There was only 5. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we only have one person signed up to speak. Jason Kell.
Mayor, Pro Tem, Council, my name is Jason Cale. I would like to thank Councilmember Bradshaw for committing at the council meeting on 4/19 to pay back all spending done without a receipt for spending that could not be verified against city policy and the agreement she signed. I think it is only fair that when Councilmember Bradshaw repays the city this money, that it be reflected on the link that is posted listing councilmember spending. By the way, thank you, Council, for voting to have that transparency for the residents. Since Councilmember Bradshaw will be reimbursing the city in line with her fiduciary duty, it should be noted publicly when she does so. Will Mayor Mitchell pledge to do the same? Will Council request that former Councilmember Rick Coach do the same for spending that was done against policy while he was an elected official? This spending is currently under audit. While they are repaying the city for unverified spending in violation of city policy, will they also be reimbursing the city for the amount they spent on gas? The city policy clearly states that gas reimbursement spending is not allowed. Travel is to be claimed as a per mile reimbursement. This is the policy for every person with a City of Kyle credit card. By my calculations, using the information provided on the city website, Mayor Mitchell spent $1,253, Councilmember Bradshaw spent $920, and Councilmember Coach spent $2,388 on gas alone. That is a total of $4,561 of spending against city policy. In most cases, they did not turn in receipts with their spending, so we will have to assume that when they claim they spent money against policy, they were being honest about what the expense was. Mayor Mitchell's expenditures on gas could be higher because he has 30 line items of expenditures labeled only travel that were all under $120 each, so we know they weren't for airlines or hotels. Those 30 items total an additional $538 that is difficult to categorize. Interestingly, most of those travel charges were in November of 2021, so I looked into his spending for that month. In November of 2021 alone, he had 60 line item transactions. From what is on the city website, he only turned in 28 receipts for those 60 transactions. Of the 28 receipts he did bother to turn in, 21 of them were for coffee. And of those 21 receipts for coffee, 14 times in that 1 month alone, he only bought coffee for himself. So if any taxpayer wants to skip the middleman and buy the mayor a cup of coffee, he drinks Americanos with half and half cream. This is only 1 month as an example of the spending done by these 3. It was repeatedly stated at the council meeting that any staff, besides the city manager, would instantly and without question be called to account for this. They would have their card privileges revoked, and they would be personally liable for the amount they spent. Do you expect higher from staff than from yourselves? Where is the leadership here? Council, if you saw a fellow council member taking cash out of a city cash register to buy themselves lunch or put gas in their car, would you stand up and say something? How many times would you allow it to happen in silence? Would you tell them, let's move forward and not talk about it and hope it would stop? A word of warning to the residents, if you took money from your employers and spent it on yourself without permission, that is called embezzlement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing none, we'll now close the citizens' comment. We'll now go to presentations. National Police Week Proclamation, Councilmember Michael Tobias.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This is such an honor for me to read, and I'm very thankful to be a sponsor for this. To give you a history, National Police Week is held every May. Law enforcement agencies from across the country come to Washington, D.C. for a number of observations to honor police officers who have died in the performance of duty. In 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officer Memorial Day. With a joint resolution of Congress in the same year, National Police Week pays special recognition to those law enforcement officers. Police Officer Week includes the annual Candlelight Vigil at the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Northwest D.C., as well as National Peace Officers Memorial Day. But during this National Police Week, we would like to recognize the dedication and daily sacrifice of the brave men and women of our Kyle Police Department. We recognize the extraordinary men and women who wear our city's uniform, who wear it with pride and integrity. But most importantly, we recognize those who took the oath to protect and serve our great city and its citizens. As mentioned before, there are no greater heroes than the ones you see before us today and every day in a police uniform. And as a nation, we must all continue to come together to highlight the hard work and dedication of all the brave men and women of our law enforcement. So with that, it is my honor to read a city proclamation, National Police Week 2022. To recognize National Police Week 2022, to honor the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy. Whereas there are more than 800,000 law enforcement officers serving in the communities across the United States, included the dedicated members of the Kyle Police Department. Whereas since the first recorded death in 1786, more than 23,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and have been killed in the line of duty, including 2,106 from the state of Texas. Whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. Whereas 619 new names of fallen heroes have been added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial this spring, including 472 officers killed in 2021 and 147 officers killed in previous years. Whereas the service and sacrifice of all officers killed in the line of duty will be honored during the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund 34th Candlelight Vigil on the evening of May 13th, 2022. Whereas the Candlelight Vigil is part of the National Police Week, which will be observed this May 15th through the 21st. Whereas May 15th is designated as Police Officers Memorial Day in honor of all fallen officers and their families, and the U.S. flags shall be flown at half-mast. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Travis Mitchell, Mayor of the City of Kyle, formally designates May 15th through the 22nd, 2022 as National Police Week in Kyle, Texas, and publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in our community and communities across the nation.
Thank you, Councilmember Tobias. Any comments?
Yes, I was very honored to be able to read this. Being a 19-year veteran with the Travis County Sheriff's Department, I'm in the Corrections Bureau, but I have a lot of friends and families that have served in law enforcement. And there's one particular person that I remember very well many years ago that was killed in line of duty in APD Austin police officer Jaime Patron was somebody I knew. And it really hits me really hard, but at the same time, it's a career that I cherish because it's serving our community and all the police officers that I know and all the great men and women have dedicated their lives to this career. And I'm just very honored to be able to recognize all of you as my friends and my coworkers and my brothers and sisters in blue. Thank you so much for all your dedication and your hard work.
Councilmember Ellison.
Well said, Councilmember Tobias. Difficult to follow that up, but I do want to share really briefly my sentiments. You know, it's great to have some of our officers and leaders from our great PD here this evening. We also have representatives from our Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association here as well. You know, it's so great to be a part of a community that understands the importance of this profession and what you all do day in and day out, and to support you all. You know, we had a bond passed during a pandemic to build a new police headquarters for you all. The voters decided to reach in their pocket even during stressful times to support you all. And, you know, that's an amazing community to be a part of. But on top of that, we also understand the sacrifice, the great sacrifice that is also sometimes made by some of your fellow officers. And right down the road, we're building a Heroes Memorial where we will honor many of those as well. And so I just want to thank you all. You know, I have great relationships with many of you all, known you for years. And so certainly appreciative that this was brought forward, and happy to support it. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councilmember Ellison. At this time, could we take a picture, please? Thank you, Chief.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Hands together, 1, 2, 3. All right, and back.
Now we have a proclamation for Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, City Council proclamation. Councilmember Dex Ellison, it's your item.
Thank you. So I can't take credit for writing this beautiful proclamation. It was done for the second year in a row by our systems analyst within our IT department, Ms. Danielle De Leon Guerrero. I'm honored to be able to read this proclamation on her behalf, and to be the second year in a row, and first ever, to my understanding, for having a proclamation of such in the City of Kyle. City of Kyle City Council Proclamation. Whereas Asian Pacific American Heritage Month started as a commemorative occasion that broadly applies to, but not limited to, all of the Asian continent and the Pacific islands of Melanesia, Micronesia, and Polynesia. And whereas the first celebration originated in Congress in 1977 by Representative Frank Horton of New York and Representative Norman Mineta of California. The proclamation was introduced with House Joint Resolution 540, which proclaimed the first 10 days in May as Pacific Asian American Heritage Week. During the same year, Senator Daniel Anaya introduced a similar resolution, Senate Joint Resolution 72. After 2 failed attempts, Representative Horton went back and introduced House Joint Resolution 1007 in June 1978. This resolution proposed that the President should proclaim a week during the first 10 days in May of 1979 as Asian Pacific American Heritage Week. This joint resolution was passed by the House and then the Senate, and was signed by President Jimmy Carter on October 5th, 1978, to become Public Law 94-94 95-419. And whereas, over the next decade, presidents passed annual proclamations for Asian Pacific American Heritage Week until 1990, when Congress passed Public Law 101-283, which expanded the observance to a month. Finally, in 1992, Congress passed Public Law 102-450, which annually designated May as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month and was signed by President George H.W. Bush. That same year, the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance, AFL-CIO, is the first and only national organization with Asian American and Pacific Islander workers, which are mostly union members, allies for advancing worker rights on both immigration and civil rights. APA-LA has addressed over 660,000 AAPI workplace issues. They serve as the bridge between the labor movement and the AAPI community. And whereas the month of May is significant and was selected as it commemorates the first immigration by the Japanese in 1843, as well as the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad in 1869, where most of the workers were Chinese immigrants. And whereas the City of Kyle acknowledges these past wrongdoings on the Asian Pacific American people and urges its citizens to practice inclusivity through celebrating the contributions of its Asian Pacific American community by honoring their history, people, and culture. Therefore, be it proclaimed by the City of Kyle that the month of May 2022 should be celebrated as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, in appreciation of the many achievements of Kyle's Asian Pacific American community and those across this nation and its history. Signed and entered this 17th day of May 2022. Couple things I want to mention, because she may be watching. There were a number of country names in here that I skipped over. I did not want to butcher them, but they will be posted on our website with all of our proclamations for anyone to see. Thank you, Jennifer, for getting this ready for us this evening. And once again, a special thanks to Daniela for a second year in a row writing this. She probably won't like that I'm going to do this, but this is not something that she's very comfortable with. I made her read it last year. She's out of town. I would have made her read it again. But she did express how proud she was to step up and do something outside of her comfort zone and represent herself, her culture, and her children and those alike. So I'm really honored to be a part of that. And I want to thank you, Mr. Sellers, and this entire Kyle staff for always wanting to be engaged and making this a place of inclusivity. I really appreciate it.
Any comments? Councilmember Tobias?
I was going to say thank you, Dex, for bringing this forward. It's great that we embrace all different cultures and from different areas of our country, and it's all over the world. So thank you for bringing this again for second year in a row. We appreciate it.
Fully. Did you want to take a picture, or are we good? Could we get a picture? Thank you. All right, thank you. At this time, we'll have an update on various capital improvement projects. Mr. Sellers, is your item?
All right, Council, through the month of May, we are soliciting citizen input for feedback on the downtown. As you know, we are in the middle of a downtown master plan. The survey for that, open to all the public, is found on our website, and I believe that's also on all of our social media outlets as well. So please, I encourage you all to help us spread that word, and let's hope we can get a great response rate for that. The next item, not up on the screen, but the next item, Memorial Day, this is the budget workshop. So we have just successfully had our first budget workshop So thank you to everyone who attended either in person or virtually. I know there are a lot of people online. We are looking forward to our next budget workshop in July. So more information will come forward on that, but great process. Now we have Memorial Day. Just a reminder, we are closed on May 30th to honor our veterans, and city offices will all be closed that day. Now I'd like to bring up, I believe it is Chief. I see Chief's name here. I just want to make sure I've got that right for the citywide cleanup.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Council Jeff Barnett, Chief of Police, for the record. We're very excited to host yet another citywide cleanup this Saturday. It will be at Greg Clark Park. We've encouraged all those interested to sign up online. We're trying to minimize the impact to traffic and the wait that some customers experienced last year. This particular event is widely popular, and because of that, it's hard to regulate how many people are going to show up, so we wanted to do that this year to make everybody have a more enjoyable experience. So from 7 to 1, we're going to be at Greg Clark Park. We have all of the information listed on our website and on our social media that will explain what items you can and cannot bring. You are required to register first. You will get a confirmation email if you are one of the successful 500 registrants, and that will tell you everything that you need to know about when and where to go, what you can and cannot bring, what you need to bring to prove your residency. And we hope that we'll have at least 500 people sign up and come bring in the things that you need to discard. We're happy to do it again this year.
Quick question. Certainly appreciate you clarifying they get that email letting them know they're registered. I think that's golden.
Yes.
Any idea of how many spots roughly there may still be? I see that the close for registration happens on this Thursday at 5.
I apologize. I did not get the number
That's
this
all right.
afternoon. If
But
you
there's
do
still
not make
spots open.
Yeah, Rachel.
Rachel's got one. Great. 315
Still
spots.
available. Still available.
Great. So we need to
Okay,
really get
so-
word out and
yeah.
let people come. We know they have an interest because last year we had hundreds and hundreds. And then if you do not make the 500 cut, you will also receive an email that tells you that you didn't make the cut, should we exceed
Fantastic.
that 500. So, yeah, please come out and join us and bring the stuff that you need to discard. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Next, we have Mariana Espinosa.
Mayor Pro Tem Council Mariana Espinosa, Parks Recreation Director. This Friday at Ash Pavilion, we have our family skate nights from 7 to 9. We'll have a DJ and concessions, and registration is required online, but you can also do it in person when you arrive. And then next Friday, we have Movie in the Park, and that is at sundown at Greg Clark Park. It is free to register, and it's at the basketball courts at Greg Clark Park. We are still looking for vendors for market days and Juneteenth. Our market days our first market of the season is just over 3.5 weeks away, starting on June 11th in conjunction with our Juneteenth celebration. And we have our National Trails Day on June 4th. I will have free guided trails tours and a free scavenger hunt at Waterleaf Park.
Thank you, Maria.
And that concludes the report.
All right, that concludes our report. So now we will go an update for low-hanging wires and unused utility poles on FM 150, Chance with Environmental Services. It's your item.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Council, Chance Padier, Environmental Services and Trades Division Manager. Our update for that so far is we've made contact with Frontier. They have actually raised the wires, taken a few of them out of the question for now. They do have a bigger project to bring everybody out and remove the poles, but we do not have an exact date on that for right now. Waiting on them to contact me back so we can get an update.
Sounds good. Any questions? Councilman Merkel?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I actually saw them out there the other day, so
Yes, ma'am.
it was kind of it was nice. So you said there's no timeline, but so you'll just bring it back whenever you get an update?
Yes, ma'am, correct. They're supposed to reach out to me either by phone or email, myself or Jerry, one of my staff, and let us know when they have an exact date. They just need to coordinate through a couple of the entities to be able to get enough people out there to do it all at once, basically.
Okay. And all those lines were just theirs?
Yes, ma'am. They had started out, I believe, with PEC, and then they basically attached onto it, but they're non-existent pretty much so far, so they're going to move them out and onto the bigger poles.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Councilor Ellison.
I think, well, good to see you, man. We don't get to see you often, Mr. Beard. Good to see you, brother. Yeah, I guess just whenever we get that, if we could just get that forwarded through Mr. Sellers so the council can be aware. But we really appreciate you staying on top of that, and thank you for bringing this forward.
No problem, will do.
Any other comments? Councilor Tobias?
Okay, real quick, thank you. So are they looking at removing the majority of those power lines, and they're gonna all go underground?
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, of course, obviously.
For the section we're speaking of is Four Season Farms and to Dollar General in that area for sure right now, and then getting a report on the rest of them. They're not all Frontier, so we're trying to reach out and figure out what the rest of them that are singular throughout the city.
Okay.
In areas.
So do we have an idea maybe that some of those poles eventually from where we're at all the way down to Waterleaf will be buried underground and, I mean, taken down eventually, correct?
Correct,
So
yes.
just real quick, it's not the utility, the
Okay.
electric lines, it's the cable lines that are being
The cable
removed.
lines that are right in that area?
Yeah,
Okay.
the lower,
The
not
secondary
the
pole, yes, sir.
electricity lines.
Okay, the cable lines,
Yes, sir,
okay.
not the main pole, but the secondary pole that's out closer to the road. That's
Those
what
are
we're
the cable
looking at.
lines
Yes,
that are
sir.
down, okay.
And there's a few sparingly throughout that area that are a little bit further down the road and in other areas throughout the city that we're investigating right now.
Okay, sounds great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments? All right, moving on. CIP road projects and consent agenda presentation. Leon Barber, city engineer.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Leon Barba, City Engineer. We're starting off with Heroes Memorial Park. Looks like we're getting to the end of this project. It's 96% complete. They're finalizing some concrete at the Heroes Walk stairs. They're still doing some planting in the area. And they're doing some soil preparation at the Memorial Garden. They're installing the railing on the bridge. And there's still some limestone patterns that they're working on there at the Cascade feature that's being finalized. And they're expecting to complete that in July. La Verde Park, based on the pay estimates that we have, the overall project is at 54% completion. They're working on steel bracing at the pavilion structure. They're working the volleyball and the dog run concrete. They're installing CMU at the pavilion structure. They're also working on the concrete finalization and core 10 steel that's going to follow there. Playground equipment is being installed as we speak. The expected completion date is late 2022, and we're hoping that gets better than that. Public Safety Center, we're about 28% complete. They're working on the end wall CMU on phase 1. Phase 2 and 3, they're working on plumbing and electrical rough-in. Phase 3, the mansard roof decking is being installed. And phase 4, they're putting the slab on the metal deck, getting ready to pour concrete on that deck. Substantial completion date, February 6, 2023. Southside Wastewater Improvements Project, we're at 94% complete. The next section that's going to be constructed, which is the last big section of that particular project, is from Edwards Drive to East Post Road. Council, just to give you a heads up, we're going to probably have 2 more change orders on this project. This next one is going to be substantial, and at the next council meeting, I'll explain the reason for the large change order that's going to be coming with this next on this particular project. Wastewater treatment plant expansion project, we're at 96% complete. On the dewatering facility, we're at 14% complete. They continuing to work on Saturdays, and the secondary treatment units are still being tested. We expect the expansion to be online by the end of this month, and the dewatering facility will be complete in August of 2022. And that's some of the testing they've been doing recently. Button Creek Interceptor, this is at 97% completion. We're going to have a final walkthrough later this week. All the tests are complete. All we need to do now is just clean it up and do some seeding, and this line should be ready by the end of the month. Old Post Road, construction continues at the north end. I talked to the county this morning. They're hoping by late summer that we'll be finishing with this project, so I just wanted to give you that update on that project. Elliott Branch Interceptor, we're at 64% complete. There's still some roads closed to through traffic, and we're expecting to complete this project in fall of 2022. This one's a little bit harder to read, small print. Let me get my notes out. Council, on item number 11, that's an advanced funding agreement that we have to authorize with the Texas Department of Transportation. Whenever they review plans, they need to have an advanced funding agreement in place so that they can, we can pay them to review those plans. So that's what item 11 is about. And this is for the quiet zone that's going to be placed there at Center Street. So we're working on the plans right now. Item number 12 is a task order to CP&Y. This is a preliminary engineering report. They're going to be looking at Kohler's Crossing, and there's 3 particular intersections we're going to be looking at. That's going to be at Sanders, Benner, and Cromwell. On items 14 through 21, let me hold off a little bit on that. I have a map that I want to share with you. On item 24, that's a contract that we have with Vikings Construction to do our annual microsurfacing projects. Mayor and Council, these are the items 14 through 21. As you know, we're trying to get some better estimates put together for these projects. The plan is to get about at least a 10% completion on these plans. Typically, we'd like to get 30%, but seriously, we've got a couple of months to get this work done, so we're hoping that we get a 10% estimate from the consultants that have been selected to do these projects. There's 11 road projects that we're looking at, and I didn't know if you wanted me to go over each one of these projects. I'd be happy to, just if you have any questions on any specific project. These are all supposed to be 4-lane roadways. That's what we're going to start with, and we're going to be doing sidewalks, street lighting, bearing utilities, and make it look like a really good street, a complete street.
Any council members have any questions?
Is this
Councilor
map in the
Yes, sir.
backup?
This map is in each one of the agenda items. Okay, thank you.
All right, next up, consent agenda items. Any council members want to pull anything?
Yes, please.
Councilmember Kell?
May I please pull 9, 12, 24, and 25?
9, 12.
And with that said, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item 10, 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and
26.
26.
We have a motion. We can vote on it. She's asking if number 22, we have to pull it for a second reading, or can we vote on it?
It doesn't need to be pulled.
Okay. You're fine. All right, we've got a motion. We've got a second. Had a motion by Councilmember Kell, second by Councilmember Bradshaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes. 6-0.
All right, so,
All right, so first one up will be consent agenda item number 9. Councilmember Kell, you pulled this item?
all right, thank you. I guess I'm curious. I thought the city was not going to have to pay anything for this tunnel. And so the $75,000 is going to go directly to the railroad? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, and Alan Ross is available online to answer questions as well. The funding will come from the developer.
So the developer is going to reimburse the city? Is that correct? Or if the developer is going to pay directly, why do we have to have a contract with the Union Pacific with an amount attached to it?
Councilperson Flores-Cale, can you hear me?
Yes,
This
yes,
is
sir.
Alan Ross. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm real well. Councilperson, as a part of the Vybe Trail project, there is a proposed pedestrian tunnel at the Kyle Crossing Phase 2 development. The proposed pedestrian tunnel goes beneath the Union Pacific Railroad, And so in order to participate in any construction or infrastructure that occurs within the Union Pacific Railroad, we have to prepare, or the agency, as UP calls them, which the agency in this case is the city of Kyle, has to prepare engineering drawings and present them to Union Pacific Railroad for review and possible approval. The way that the agency or the city of Kyle reimburses the Union Pacific Railroad for such review is through this reimbursable agreement. In this particular case, the developer of Kyle Crossing Phase 2, which is CSW, is funding the reimbursable agreement 100%. So the $75,000 does not come from the city of Kyle's general fund or any other fund. It's being provided 100% by the developer.
So who's going to cut the check?
So the check to the city is from CSW, and then we'll hold that in the fund, and then it'll be drawn down by Union Pacific.
Okay, now I see this is just an estimate of $75,000.
That is correct.
So it could essentially be more. Doesn't say that.
It could be more, but based on based on the boring company's recent experience, it should cover the review of the engineering drawings. However, if more funds are required, then the developer CSW will provide those funds.
Is that written in the agreement?
It's not written into the reimbursable
Right,
agreement.
okay.
And I don't know anything about the agreement between the city and CSW.
So then how do we protect the city in case, say it's $150,000?
If there are additional funds needed, we'll request those of the developer.
Okay, that's it. That's all the questions.
Councilmember Parsley?
From those $3 million that they are going to be putting towards this, this 75,000 are gonna come from that amount. So everything that gets, every study, every permit is going to be drawn out of, that way the 3 million is gonna go just lower and lower.
That's correct.
My concern is if the construction of the tunnel goes over $3 million or over that amount, that they are still going to be paying for that, number one. Number two, will this $75,000 guarantee that Union Pacific will give us a permit to build? Or permit will be an additional amount?
Right. Councilperson, it does not guarantee that you will get the construction and maintenance agreement, which is ultimately what we're pursuing with Union Pacific Railroad. This reimbursable agreement only provides for exactly that reimbursement to the Union Pacific Railroad while they review the plans and specifications that will be prepared by your third-party engineer, which in this case is the boring company. The Union Pacific Railroad, which controls the right-of-way, they have absolute, authority to either approve or disapprove the plans that will be presented by the boring company. However, we've worked with Union Pacific Railroad on other projects. We feel as long as we provide, or as long as the third-party engineer, which is the boring company, provides good engineering services, that it has a very high chance of being approved. Ultimately, what the reimbursable agreement pays for Union Pacific Railroad to review the plans. Once they're reviewed and if they're approved, then it moves forward to a construction and maintenance agreement between the city and Union Pacific Railroad. That agreement will also be funded by the developer, CSW.
Thank you.
And then, Councilmember, as part of the design build contract, there will be a guaranteed maximum price that the contractor will not exceed.
Okay.
And if that price is over that $3 million total limit, we'll bring that back to council. We could
For discussion.
abandon the project, add more funds as needed.
Thank you.
Councilmember Tobias?
Okay, looking at the agreement, section number 4, it says agency, which would be the city, correct? Acknowledges and agrees that railroad may withhold its approval for the project for any reason in its sole discretion, including without limitation impacts to railroad safety, facilities, and operations. If the railroad approves the project, railroad will continue to work with the agency, which is us, the city, to develop the final plan specifications to prepare material and force cost estimates for the project relating. So I understand the question about the estimate of 75,000, which I think Councilmember Flores-Cale is bringing up. Okay. I'm now redirecting it, maybe in a different way. Maybe this is not the conversation, but I'm just going to bring it up. If this gets approved, the way I'm looking at it, if they start construction on this tunnel, with your experience, if you've done a tunnel like this before, for how many hours at a day do they shut that railroad down for the construction? Because as we know, when we have downtown, and people have lived here in Kyle for many years, when you have 2 trains passing, you could have about a 30 to 45-minute wait just for them to go through. So a concern that was brought up to me from a constituent was, we start this tunnel, we start digging underneath these tracks, something happens, it delays, we have a train that needs to go through. Are they going to be stuck in our city for many hours or days at a time?
Councilperson Tobias, the endeavor of the boring company will be to construct the tunnel such that the railroad track is not shut down ever. And in fact, if the plans and specifications that the boring company put together don't include basically zero impact to the railroad, or at least traffic on the railroad, I don't think it will be approved by Union Pacific Railroad in the first place. So the boring company knows going in that the bar is high, that they must design this thing and then construct it such that traffic on the railroad track is never impeded. That's been made clear to us in early meetings with the Union Pacific Railroad. I mean, they stated that up front. So the boring company understands that. It's a requirement of Union Pacific Railroad, and that's just the specification that has to be met.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Councilmember Kell?
Go ahead.
Oh, Councilmember Ellison, I didn't see your hand. Sorry.
I'll go after him.
I appreciate the explanation. And, this has been a probably year and a half at least that we've gone through this with the developer. The original, as Mr. Sellers explained last council meeting, originally was supposed to be a bridge over it. We looked at all kinds of other different ways before we even came to the tunnel aspect, but it just wasn't viable and feasible without being exorbitant cost and a number of other different reasons. Safety was another reason mentioned. So I'd like to motion to approve the item as it is written, and I'd like to read it. Approve reimbursement agreement between Union Pacific Railroad, Omaha, Nebraska, in the amount not to exceed $75,000 for preliminary engineering services for the Vybe Trail Tunnel project bore underneath the railroad.
We have a motion by Councilmember Ellison. Do we have a second? I have a second by Councilmember Bradshaw.
I still have a question.
Discussion?
Yes.
Councilmember Kell?
Thank you. Okay. So I have a couple questions. First of all, if the city decides not to move forward after this reimbursement, will the city still be reimbursed the $50,000 and the $75,000?
So the developer is bringing a check to cover this amount, and assuming the council does not move forward, then that amount's just basically a wash. It's already expended. The remainder of the $3 million per the development agreement could then be used for other improvements to the development. So the set aside of $3 million was for the Vybe Trail, for the tunnel, but it could be used for other things.
Okay, and do we know the cost of the monthly, well, first of all, who's going to be in charge of maintaining this tunnel?
I'm not sure within the tunnel itself. It's a good question. whether or not that is going to be ultimately the CSW, who is maintaining the trail segment through their underlying private property, but because this is under railroad right-of-way, it may fall on the city as the agency that's the owner of the project.
Okay, do we know the cost of the maintenance? They're
Not
getting-
yet.
Okay, in the documents that we were sent last week, after the agenda meeting, I saw that there was one that was comparable that the boring company did in, I think it was in Las Vegas. And it was 0.83 of a miles, and the maintenance on that every year was $5 million. And so I just want to make sure the city is not going to move forward with an expense that could literally fund our roads. So I think that's something else we need to think about moving forward is how are we going to maintain this, who's going to maintain it, and how much it's going to be.
Definitely some great questions. I think the Vegas one was a little more unique in the way that it's put together with the lights, the
ventilation,
the parking, everything else. But yeah, those are great questions that we need to have answers to. So yeah,
We'll
definitely.
ask.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion passes 5-1. Right. Agenda item number 12, Councilmember Kelly, you asked to pull this agenda item. It's yours.
I would only like to request to read the reports when they're done. And that was it. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item 12 unless anybody else has any other questions.
We got a first and a second. It was a second by Councilmember Parsley. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, so number 24, I just have to recuse from, so after the vote is taken, I'll be back.
All right. So we have a recusal by Councilmember Kell for item number 24. Do we have a motion for item number 24? I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda item number 24. Do I have a second? Okay. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Councilmember Parsley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 5-0. Get Councilmember Kell back. We now have consent agenda item number 25. Councilmember Kell, this is your item. You asked to be pulled. You have the floor.
Yeah, I just have a question for staff. What is the name of the actual law firm that's going to be representing the city?
Denton Navarro is the name of Roxy's firm that she works for.
Okay, may I ask why we continuously use the verbiage or the name, the Knight Law Firm?
Because we are your city attorney.
Okay, so is that a DBA?
Are we a DBA? No.
I tried to do some research and it looked like the entity was terminated in 2010.
Who? What entity?
It was the Knight Law Firm, PLLC.
No. It was Barney Knight's firm for years. It was Knight and Partners, Knight and Associates. And then when Paige and I took over in 2016, it became the Knight Law Firm LLP.
Okay. I'm just going to look real quick, if you just give me a second, just to double check to make sure I didn't get the name wrong. And it's called the KNIGHT. Oops. KNIGHT Law Firm. So it's not found at the comptroller. Oops. When I looked it up at the Secretary of State, it shows as terminated. Is there some way we can confirm that before we move forward with the vote?
The vote's for a different firm, for Denton Navarro. It's a totally separate firm.
Okay, so I see that, but I think on the letter, it references the Knight Law Firm. Is that not correct?
Which letter are you speaking of?
The backup for this agenda item?
If Councilmember Ellison wants to weigh in, would you yield the floor for a little bit?
Sure, absolutely.
Councilmember Ellison, you have the floor.
Mayor Trim, motion to approve the agenda item is written.
We have a motion, we have a second. Motion by Councilmember Ellison, second by Councilmember Bradshaw. Any discussion?
Wait, I found it.
Okay.
So, just to confirm, it's the Knight Law Firm, comma, P LLC?
LLP.
LLP, okay, LLP. Yeah, for whatever reason, it's not registered at the comptroller, so I can't get any more information. It shows that, okay. For some reason, it says effective SOS registration date not registered at the comptroller, so I was just concerned about that.
We are registered where we need to be, and we have been since 2016.
Okay, I'm just gonna show you, so you don't think I'm trying to be mean or hasty.
no,
This
I'm-
is the government website, and I was just concerned.
All right,
No,
all right. Call the question. Okay, so we've got a call a question. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0.
Wait, that was to call the question.
Oh, call the question. I'm sorry, call the question.
That was
Yeah.
to move on.
Yeah, move on. Okay, aye. So moving on, all those in favor, item number 25, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes 6-0. All right. Consider possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding the city's legal procedures to include updating the city of Kyle's registered agent as well as reviewing and uplifting current future policies regarding pending litigation. Flores-Cale, this is your item.
Thank you. So when I first came on to the council, I was kind of curious and thrown into all the lawsuits that the city was entangled in. And I just realized over time that we have no legal procedure to keep council updated. And so I was hoping that we could discuss it and figure out how it is we want to stay updated, or if we want to stay updated. I do appreciate random updates, even if there's not much action, but it's pending. And I was curious if anybody else was equally interested.
I guess for me would be, the concern would be that if we're in the middle of litigation and we're getting these emails, would they be able to pull these emails and give information that we wouldn't want out there during a court proceeding?
We're certainly very judicious in what we're emailing out during litigation. We can give very generalized summaries, but we would prefer that rather than doing any of that, that we speak to you all in executive session. And so that would be the preferred method of giving an update on any kind of litigation. But it seems to be a bit, I mean, it does talk about regarding pending litigation. If that's all you're speaking about, then yes, we can, on the periodic basis. Ms. Flores-Cale, do you have an idea of how frequently you might want these?
Okay, so I guess my concern is not hearing about it until there is action that we need to take, or there is some consideration that we need to discuss. I would say maybe every 6 months in exec, a brief 5-10 minute conversation, updating us on the status of the pending litigation.
We might be able to even do something more than 6 months, and more frequent than that. I was just trying to figure out if we were doing something on a monthly basis in light of budgetary issues that we've spoken of. So, but no, we can certainly give you ongoing updates.
Okay, I just know in our exec, I felt like we needed more time. And so I feel like to get all our answers, our questions answered, and to make sure that we're making good decisions as a council, that we stay apprised as much as we can. So that's really my goal, is just to get more information and not.
Happy to provide those, and we can provide you a policy to work with Mr. Sellers, that we afford you those opportunities to get you updates.
Okay, and then, thank you. My second item that I wanted to discuss was, actually, I'd written the city manager and asked how the city's registered agent was chosen. I didn't realize until I received a lawsuit that it was in fact an elected official that received the documents, who's our registered agent, and it just kind of bothered me, because I think the registered agent really should be somebody that is always in the building, maybe a possible staff member. And so my genuine curiosity was how our registered agent was chosen.
Civil Practice and Remedies Code 17024 discusses that and mandates that who is allowed to be the registered agent. So we follow that.
Okay, could you tell me what that is?
It's generally the city secretary receives, and then either the mayor or the city manager might be the other one. I don't believe you have it in your charter any other way. That's the only other way I have seen it, is actually in a charter of a city, where it spells out who is supposed to receive. But default is to the Civil Practice and Remedies Code.
Okay, no, I agree. I think it should be some type of staff who should be in the building and being able to be served, because I'm aware your registered agent is who gets served. So if they can't be found, or if they're not in the office, or they're on vacation, that just prolongs the service time. Is that correct?
It certainly could, yes. I don't think anybody is avoiding.
No, I'm not saying that. No, I just, by no means am I assuming anybody's avoiding it. I just want to make sure that I would just like to see somebody, again, who is staff and always in the building, serve as a registered agent. And so I'd like to make a motion to have a member of staff be the city's registered agent.
We have a motion, Councilmember Cale. We have a second by Councilmember Parsley. Any discussion? Councilmember Ellison?
Is a member of staff not already listed as a you mentioned the city secretary,
Yes.
the city manager.
Yes.
So I guess I'm not understanding what we would be
According to
adding.
the-
I'm
Okay, sorry.
speaking.
Okay.
So I guess, so those are the listed persons that, for registered agents for our city to be served anytime the city's sued,
They are
correct?
generally who you serve, either the city secretary, city manager, and/or the mayor is usually who is served. And I don't know what the question is as far as demarcating somebody who is in the building as a.
Well, our according to the lawsuit, it says it was an elected official, and so that's why I'm confused as to why staff wasn't the registered agent. Instead, it was an elected official.
And the quo warranto proceeding may be very, I don't know the service on that, but it could have been something very specific to that.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Just any more discussion? Councilmember Tobias?
Okay, again, so who is the staff member that you're referring on this, Ms. Flores-Cale? We have the city secretary, the city
Yeah, that's
manager.
what I'm wondering. I guess I
It's like-
thought our registered agent was only the elected official. But is that incorrect? Can it be?
So if
Usually
we
a
already
registered
have
agent
one-
is
if we
one
already have
person.
somebody
Hold on.
assigned.
Let's have some water. One at a time, please.
If we already have somebody assigned, I don't understand who we need to assign another staff member for this, if this is where you're going. I'm just trying to understand for myself.
Okay,
Yes.
Councilmember
Okay.
Cale?
let me go back. So I guess my assumption was we only had one registered agent. That's usually, you don't have two or three registered agents. So if you guys are telling me there's 3 registered agents for the city, is that correct?
I'm sorry, Scott. I have one here. I could use my own. All right, 17.024 of the Civil Practice and Remedies Code says, in a suit against an incorporated city, town, village, citation may be served on the mayor, clerk, secretary, or treasurer.
Got it.
Those are our registered agents. That, for all intents and purposes, that's the breadth of it. So we generally have the city secretary who is always around, and in lieu of that, there could be, somebody else that fills some of these other positions, and if that's lacking, then the mayor.
Gotcha. So that is great information to have, and it's what I requested last week, and I never received, and it wasn't from you. I'm just letting you know the reason why it's on the agenda is because I requested that information, and if it could have been provided, it would have fixed a lot of confusion. So with that, I like to withdraw my motion.
We have withdrawal, Councilman Wells? Withdraw, all right. So moving on, we have withdrawal.
Thank you.
All right, next up, agenda item number 28, update and discussion on Papa Jack's and Jack's Access. Councilman Raquel, this is your item.
Yes, I was hoping somebody could give us an update. Thank you.
Manager. I spoke with Mr. Greg Henry this afternoon about the status of Papa Jack. And he was excited to tell me that he received a negative report on his asbestos inspection, that his general contractor was, as we were speaking, filing for his demolition permit, and that he has crews ready to go as soon as that permit is delivered. So the report on Jack's Access is a little murkier. I'm gonna have to keep digging into that, and I'll send an email as soon as I have that cleared up.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Jerry, appreciate it. All right, agenda number 20, item number 29, discussion possible action addressing concerns from council and residents regarding city managers and municipal consulting limited liability company to include any other authorized and unauthorized outside business activities. This was directed by council to come back. You were the original signer, Councilmember Raquel. You can start the item, or Councilmember could.
Thank you. At this point, I would just like to make a motion to postpone agenda item number 29, please.
We've got a motion by Councilmember Raquel. Do we have a second? We have a second by Councilmember Parsley. Any discussion? Councilmember Bradshaw?
Yeah, I would like to know why it's being postponed.
Due to a pending matter, which I am not able to discuss, I would like to postpone it.
I would love to hear this, and I'm happy to go back into executive session.
Yeah, I thought we were going to. But I don't know, I think by law, we're not allowed to talk, or by ordinance, we're not allowed to talk about it.
It's on the agenda where we can go back into executive session to discuss.
The reason why I'm asking for the postponement is not up for discussion, and it's not because of me. It's because there's an ordinance that states I am not allowed to talk about it.
So you want us to vote for something, but you won't tell us why?
No, we're not voting, I'm postponing.
You made a motion. That motion has to be
yes.
supported by votes.
One at a time, please.
Yes, I was told it had to be that way today in an email by the mayor, that it had to be a vote.
Good. Councilor Bradshaw, any other comments? Okay. Councilmember Ellison, you had your hand up. Are you okay? You're good? Okay. Sounds good. Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion fails. 4-2.
So then we have to talk about it?
We will talk about it. Yeah. All right. So at this time, so what we were bringing forward, and this was what council wanted to know, was the
Actually, it's my
rule-
item.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk.
If I'm going to be forced to talk about it, I'm okay with that. So what happened was, at a previous meeting, I put on here to discuss the city managers LLC, because I had some residents and some other people that were concerned regarding the ethics to the company. And so prior to coming out and taking any kind of vote, we discussed it in executive session. And then we came out and we took a vote to wait until we received the legal opinion back that our city manager requested from our ethics attorney. And then on the 6th, we received a copy of that ethics advisory opinion. And what I did not know at the time was the question presented. And so I had previously asked, was all the information given to the ethics attorney? And I was told yes. However, when I received the opinion back, it did not touch on the issues that I had at hand. And so I was concerned. In fact, I didn't even ask to put this agenda item on the agenda. This was put on here for me. I just simply stated I'd like to put it back after the opinion came back. And so because of that, I am not prepared to move forward. And that was the reason for my request to postpone.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Parsley?
I just want to say that I read the ethics attorney findings, and I found that there was no issue being brought up. So I hope I don't have any additional questions in regards to this. I found myself that, the information that was provided seemed to be complete, in my opinion. That's it.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Tobias?
Okay, I'm just going to go and overall read what it was on the advisory opinion because it's already out there. So the question was presented whether personal consulting company Municipal Consulting LLC may do business with other municipalities by assisting them in contracting with a transportation firm to provide transportation services to residents, and to do what extent the business conflict with the city of Kyle code ethics. So by all the factual information here, and it states, City Manager Scott Sellers as the one for the ethics opinion. And if you go all the way down and it comes to the ethics compliance officer, there basically says clearly in the intent behind Section 221 says prohibited for the fixation of taxpayer dollars, public property. I do not see how the receipt of letters results in the taxpayer use of taxpayer dollars amounting to a code's ethics violation, and certainly not one warranting official reprimand and punishment. And that was on page 4. So that's what I have as far as this goes. Section 202 pertains to the former official's use of confidential information that is not already available to the public. This is the one section that could apply to Mr. Coach employment with MC and ultimately Mr. Sellers as well. For example, Mr. Coach possessed knowledge of confidential information related to the Kyle Uber 314 program and divulging that confidential material information during the course of his employment with MC, then Mr. Coach would have committed a violation. If Mr. Sellers knew Mr. Coach was divulging such information, then he too would be that violation. As long as Mr. Coach did not divulge any confidential information he obtained while serving on city council, then this is not a violation of code ethics for him to be employed by MC for the purposes of this transportation program. And it's the end of the opinion. That's just in summary.
Any other?
I think that's what we're just trying to get at, to find for the people out there of what was going on. And it had to do with the possible conflict of interest with a consulting company with our city manager and former mayor pro tem.
Great.
So I still haven't gone, so just let me weigh in. So just real quick, and then I'll give you an opportunity. So Just real quick, Mr. Sellers, the one part that I was really focusing on was on the ending, where it talks about receiving letters or here to the city. And I know that there was an oversight by your part, but you've stopped that now. I just was wondering, did you reach out to all the entities to make sure that they were no longer sending anything to do with your LLC to the city of Kyle?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, so the address for the registered agent was this address because the Secretary of State states that it is the address where I would be during working hours. I did receive one letter from the Secretary of State, at which time I immediately changed the registered agent address to my personal address. As for my company ever having a contract with Uber, it has never had a contract with Uber, nor will it. In fact, I have carved that out entirely, and I've taken my consulting website down. I would still appreciate the opportunity to consult from time to time for other entities, but Uber, Honeywell, which were alleged, I've never had a contract, nor will I, with either one of those entities. And I feel like the opinion was fair. I did go back and amend my request for an opinion to include the additional questions that were brought up at the next council meeting by Councilmember Flores-Cale, and I included the video segment. So I believe the ethics compliance officer did try to address those additional questions, and you have before you, hopefully, what is a full opinion.
So refresh my memory, when did we, as a council, give you permission to do the consulting? Do you remember the date on that?
I believe it was January of 2021 or February 2020.
January 19th.
January 19th?
2021.
21, okay. I was a part of that council at the time, and I remember being very frank and not allowing you to work with entities like San Marcos or Buda, and that was my direction at the time on the dais. And then I've got to take a little bit of the blame on this, because after even saying that, when our Uber 314 program came online, I actually reached out to staff to see how we could maybe extend the service to maybe Buda and San Marcos, bringing them into the fold and somehow finding a way for it to stop on the city, at the city limits, and then the next municipality take over. We just unfortunately could never do that. And that was me going back on what I originally told you, was not to, but this was actually as a city manager, not as a consultant. So I guess I'm kind of torn there. I feel like I'm maybe had something to do with the direction, I guess. And I just want to make sure that in the public, it could look bad when we're have a program in the city and someone's trying to market it. Now, if a past council member is doing that, he's no longer a part of the city, that's totally different. But a staff or even a current council member, it could be frowned on. It's not illegal, but it could be frowned on. So I appreciate you doing away with that part of your LLC, and definitely would recommend not, just being careful on anything, and always advising council, if you wouldn't mind. That would be great. Councilor Ellison?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to, one, accept the advisory opinion by Doug Montgomery, the City of Kyle's Ethics Compliance Officer, and A, reaffirm the council's support for that was previously given in January of 2021 to allow the city manager to participate in consulting services and business services, meeting still the same criteria and outline that we gave originally, not to work with sister cities. And if we could just go back to the record of all those outlines we gave, that I felt very comfortable at that time as well, and approving the city manager's outside employment.
Second.
We've got a motion by Councilmember Ellison. We've got a second by Councilmember Bradshaw. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 5-1. Staff get all that? Jennifer? I'll let her.
I believe so.
Yeah, definitely. All right, agenda item number 30, professional service agreement for 2002 bond election, public election with, Dandy Planning and Gap Strategies for $65,000. Mr. Hendricks, this is your item.
Assistant City Manager. For the record, before you is a professional services agreement with Dandy Planning, which most of you probably know as GAP Strategies, to do the public information campaign for 2022 bond package. You might remember back in June of last year, you passed a similar agreement with GAP Strategies, and that agreement was never executed because we felt like we needed more time to develop what the bond package was going to be. Funding is available in our CIP budget this year, and Jeff Barton from Dandy Planning is available to answer any questions.
Does council have any questions?
I have,
Councilman
besides
Kell?
besides the roads, can you tell us what else is gonna be on the bond?
I don't think we know what's going to be on the bond yet, do we?
Well, everything associated with right-of-way, so right-of-way acquisition, utility, undergrounding. There will be a request for state and federal assistance as well, so we'll be communicating with TxDOT, Campo, state, transportation agencies, senators, et cetera.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Tobias?
Yes. Referencing the public education, do we have an idea of what they might be presenting?
We do. They have a pretty thorough outline in their proposal, but I'll ask Jeff Barton to step up and go through that with you.
Mayor Tim, Pro Tem Council Members, Jeff Barton with GAP Strategies or Dandy Planning. It's very similar to what we proposed last year and were selected through the competitive RFP. Councilmember, it would include a project website so that citizens could find that easily, something that would that we would create and maintain, but could be referenced transparently through the city website. In addition, designing, not mailing, but designing for the city some mail that would, again, not advocate for any one position or another, but educate citizens about what's in the bond package that could be included, for example, in utility bills or put it out the library, that sort of thing. A social media account and campaign, plus 2 public meetings and some virtual town halls. I know that you all are familiar with those. We've had a lot of success around the state. We've worked for a number of school bond packages around the state recently, Cedar Park and Pflugerville, for example, and had a lot of success with virtual town halls that accompany the in-person town halls, and then some miscellaneous support for staff in the city as we move forward. And that would be in English, también en español.
Great, great. Because this is going to be a very, very important bond, obviously, for the roads. And I'm sure there's going to be hundreds of people, thousands of people probably want to have questions. And if approved, if we go this route, the type of education that we can give to the public that you'd be able to provide. And I was going to ask the same thing if we have town hall meetings. I know that brings a lot of people in so they actually can see maybe a possible model or a map or what it would look like or something like that to really bring the dollar amount, bring all that information out for people to make a pretty good educated vote on that end.
You know, Councilmember, we take our final direction from the council and from your staff members on exactly how that would roll out. But I think our recommendation in the proposal is just that you have that town hall meeting where people could see and experience really what's going on with bonds, learn something about growth rates, traffic counts, but also how the city's trying to deal with those. And again, not just with that in-person event, but something where people can sit on their own couch and maybe have a week to log in anytime that's convenient for them. And they see a replicated experience, something very similar to what they'd see in that town hall, so they can zoom in on some maps. They can learn about what growth patterns are in Kyle, about what traffic is, what the cost of the bonds would be, and make their own decisions.
Great. Well, with that, Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve agenda item number 30, professional services agreement for the 2022 bond election, education and planning.
We have a motion by Councilmember Tobias, a second by Councilmember Ellison. Do we have any discussion?
Real quick, Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Ellison?
So just wanted to say, I've been in an interview where we've reviewed GAP strategy before, and I've known Mr. Barton and have had experience seeing, your firm work with the county on road bonds, I believe, and other different entities as well, all of which I believe have passed. And I think largely because of the educational information aspect of that. Voters need to know what they're voting for. I know it's tough to vote to increase your taxes, but if you feel like you have value out of that, then that can happen. And I think that only can happen when there's education and information about what they're voting on. And so I certainly appreciate the council's push towards that. I know we're working very hard with our engineering firms to get as much information to be provided so we can decide what we'll put on that bond and the information we'll put out. So I'm like to support this.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
We appreciate council. We do this all over the state, but this is home, so we're particularly excited to do the job. Thank you.
All right, next up, agenda number 31, consider authorizing the city director of finance to initiate the process of prepare documents and the coordination of all necessary steps for the issuance of general obligation bonds, Series 2022, in the amount not to exceed $37 million, to provide findings for the design, construction, and all furniture, fixtures, and equipment required for the new Kyle Public Safety Center facility as authorized by the voters of Kyle, Texas on November 3rd, 2020. Mr. Perez-Mohit, this is your item.
Yes, sir. Mayor Pro Tem, council members, for the record, I'm Perez-Mohit, City's Director of Finance. On November 3rd, 2020, the voters of Kyle approved Proposition A, authorizing the issuance of $37 million in general obligation bonds for the design and construction of the Public Safety Center facility. When we issue tax-supported debt in the city of Kyle, in order to comply with the city charter, your Director of Finance and the city manager follows a two-step process. We come before council to request your authorization to begin the process, and then when we're ready to sell the bonds, we will come back for your final approval of the bond pricing and the bond ordinance at the time. So tonight, staff is seeking City Council's authorization to begin the process of working with the city's financial advisor, bond counsel, credit rating agency, bond underwriters, in order to be able to issue the new debt. The amount of the debt will be in an amount not to exceed $37 million. The type of debt will be General Obligation Bonds Series 2022. The purpose for issuing this debt will be to pay for the cost of design, construction, and fully furnishing the city's new Public Safety Center facility. Our tentative schedule is to come back before City Council on July 19th, which will be your second regularly held council meeting in July, for a public hearing, bond pricing and market report, approval of the bond ordinance, and approval by council of all of the required documents for the sale of the bonds. Mayor Pro Tem and council, we have the city's financial advisor, Mr. Chris Allen, with RBC Capital Markets here with us this evening. Together, we'll be glad to answer any questions you may have regarding this agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Perez-Mohit. Any questions? Any discussion? Councilmember Parsley?
Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to make a motion to approve item 31.
We have a
Second.
motion by Councilmember Parsley, a second by Councilmember Cale. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, sir. Agenda item number 32, authorize the city manager or his designee to negotiate a contract with Core Office Interiors for the design, procurement, and installment of furniture for the Public Safety Center. Bob Farmer, this is your item.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. My name is Bob Farmer. I'm a Senior Program Manager with AGCM. So back in March, we put out a request for qualifications for furniture planning firms to assist the city in planning each one of the public safety center spaces and help design and identify all the furniture needs for that facility. What we're asking for you to do is approve a ranking. We received 5 highly qualified responses to that. They were reviewed, references were checked, and they were ranked accordingly. Core Office Interiors was the highest ranked firm. So what we are asking to do is approve that ranking and allow the city manager or his designee to enter into a contract negotiation with that firm. That firm would help us plan, design, identify all the furniture on both the city side and the PD side, help us through the procurement process, which the city would do through one of the cooperative buying co-ops, and then they would receive and install the furniture. We will be bringing back those contracts and or purchase orders for that furniture. So we're really just doing a planning session with this particular solicitation. Just really highly regarded firms. All the references were great. We couldn't have gone wrong with any of them. Core Office Interiors rose to the top because they have some previous police department experience, and that was really the only edge that they had. Happy to answer any questions about this item.
Any discussion? Councilmember Tobias?
Yes, I'm looking at the training room furniture. You have some attachments that are on top of the table itself. Would those be for monitors?
So those were just examples of their past PD experience. They were just trying to show us this is what they did in New Braunfels and San Marcos. So they were just images of the kind of things that we would expect to see for our facility. So what they're showing here is not the furniture we're going to be buying, just examples of their product.
And those are easily to be moved, to be taken down and moved to different locations?
I think all of that would come out in the
Would be
planning
easy.
process for whatever the city desired. Those were just examples of other facilities that they have done. So
Because I know people move around, they get promoted, and if they need to use a different space for the detectives or some other areas.
Flexibility is a real
yes.
key word in furniture
Exactly.
these days. So I would expect, and so the city is going to have an opportunity to provide all that input, the PD and city staff. So it's all wide open. They're not tied to a certain manufacturer or a certain piece of furniture.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Councilmember Ellison?
Yes, and that's actually the point I was going to make. And I know Chief and Captain and perhaps any other designees are going to be closely involved in that. I know that is very important to you all. And I know we've leaned on you, Chief and Captain, as well for a lot of input on this building. That's something I'm actually very proud of, that we've leaned on you all so much to have so much input into this, and that all the way down to the FF&E here. So with that being said, I just want to say real quick, I know we have AGCM on a number of different projects. I've said this to David before. I appreciate you all being our bulldog out there, being our as our representative, and getting everything from our position out there as best you can, and looking out for every dollar and getting the best deal we can in everything, all the projects we've assigned to you all. So we appreciate that. So with that being said, I'd like to approve the agenda item as written.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Ellison, a second by Councilmember Tobias. Any other discussion? Councilmember Cale.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that the city is going to continue to plan, to design, and install items in this public safety building with what we previously voted on, which was that elected officials were not to be housed in this building. So I know there was going to be some overflow of staff, but as far as elected officials being in that building, I'd like the planning to continue without elected officials being in there. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you very much.
All right, agenda item number 33, second reading of an ordinance of the City of Kyle, Texas, annexing 119 acres, .73 acres of land, more or less, located at 1111 at 111113 Roland Lane, approximately 3,000 northwest of the intersection of I-35 and Roland Lane in Hayes County, Texas, including the abundant streets, roadways, and right-of-ways into the corporate limits of the city. Custer Bullock, it's your item, or Will, would that be yours? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Councilman.
Will Atkinson, Senior Planner for the record. This is the first of the next 3 items relating to this project. This is the second read for the annexation. The following item will be the zoning associated with it, and the last item will be the development agreement as well.
Okay. Any discussion? Councilman Raquel?
I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 33.
We have a motion by Councilman Raquel. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Bradshaw. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 6-0. On number 34, first reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 53 of zoning of the City of Kyle, Texas for the purpose of rezoning approximately 87.694 acres of land from A to R1C, R13 residential, 326 acres, R12 and R193, CC Community Commercial, 11.67 acres for property located at 1111 and 1113 Roland Lane in Hayes County, Texas. Will Atkinson is your item.
Thank you. Will Atkinson, Senior Planner for the record. This is the follow-up item for the annexation related to this project. They are wanting to have a combination of 4 different zoning districts that are wanting to be developed. A mix of condominium residential, 50-foot wide single-family residential lots, 65-foot wide single-family residential lots, and community commercial along the general boundary of where the FM 110 bypass is going to go. All these zoning districts can be considered per our city's comprehensive plan, and with the follow-up infrastructure that will be developed with this project, can be supported as well. So it's staff's recommendation that this zoning is approved.
Okay, this item has a public hearing. We'll now open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll now close the public hearing. The discussion? Councilmember Bradshaw?
Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to make a motion to approve item number 38.
34.
Second.
Oh,
34.
34, yeah.
sorry, I scrolled down.
That's all right.
34.
34. We have a motion by Councilmember Bradshaw and a second by Councilmember Flores-Cale. Any other discussion?
Right here.
Councilmember Tobias?
Yes, sir. Okay. So basically the landowner was approached and wants to divide up in 4 different areas, correct?
Yes, sir. They do have a developer who's interested in the property, but with the application, the landowner himself has provided the application for rezoning and what have you. So they are the legal entity on the application.
Okay. Do we have any idea if, when it comes to Roland Lane itself, do we have an estimate of how many condominiums or housing units they're looking at building out there right off the bat?
It's generally around 3 to 4 per buildable acre. They are looking at they're looking at 3 to 4 per buildable acre. So the condominiums themselves, at max, would be in the 100 to 120 range probably. That doesn't include take into account roads and sidewalks and trees and all the infrastructure that goes in as well. So that has to be subtracted as well.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Ellison?
Is the requester here? So what discussions have you all had with the city, I'm assuming staff, about landing on these asks, essentially?
Yeah, so we've had close correspondence with the city representatives.
We've talked about the variety of product and how that aligns with the city's comprehensive plan and what is envisioned for this area. It seems to be supportive of this development. As Will mentioned, there's going to be a variety of zonings, both condominium, townhome, and single family, along with commercial at the hard corner.
You said townhome. I did not see that in as a part of the request, but that is something you all are looking at as well.
As part of the R1C zoning, yes, sir.
I do see you have a number of lots listed up here in the request letter. I do like the variety. I'll say that. I was not aware that the townhomes would be a part of that. That is something that I know the council is probably getting tired of me advocating for in the past, a variety in housing stock. I've been advocating this for the past 7 years since I was on planning and zoning, to get a more variety in housing product in the city. So I am at least excited about that part. I'll yield the floor. Thank you, Chair.
Anyone else? Any other discussion? I've got a question. Do we know if they're going to do any improvements on Roland Lane in that area, Will?
So early on, when they came in wanting to develop the site, we had discussions with, it was pretty much a roundtable with the development team on the private side, also with Public Works, Engineering, Planning, Assistant City Manager as well. They'll be making improvements to the drainage that comes onto their site where it crosses Roland Lane. So there's going to be a portion of that section right there where they'll be making improvements as appropriate, because it's going to be coming off of the K50 subdivision just to the north. As an overall regional perspective from Roland Lane and improvements, it was decided that that is more of a city CIP, because there's a lot of drainage that has to be taken into account for the entire length of it. That also goes all the way down Old Post Road as well. And with requirements to pull most of Roland Lane up out of, it's not necessarily floodplain, but to be able to effectively drain it properly, the staff didn't want to have to come back later with a brand new road and have to tear it up and start all over again. So
That's actually a great assessment. I've been out there when it's flooding, so yeah, definitely. But I'm glad that they're going to take care of part of that flooding issue in their area, so that's a win for me. So yeah. Any discussion? Sorry. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 35.
34. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, 35, sorry, yeah, now I'm off. Forgot the mark, 35, sorry. We have a second by Councilmember Parsley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 5-1. All right. Actually, item 36, yeah. Okay. Second reading. I really think that was 34. Scott, wasn't it?
Was the zoning item?
Yeah, it was with the public hearing. Oh, that's right, I'm bad. Okay, my bad. I got lost. All right, item number 36, second reading, an ordinance of City of Kyle, Texas.
Sir, I apologize. 35 is the development agreement associated with the zoning and the.
Okay, we just brought them
So that
both
was
together.
34,
Okay,
35, correct, for the DA.
so we're good?
You haven't done the DA yet.
Right, we
So
have not
just
done the
finished
development
zoning item,
agreement.
Which was 34, now we need 35.
So we did 34, I was right. Okay, so now we're in item 35, okay. Consider possible action on development agreement by and between the City of Kyle, Texas and Edward Coster Bullock Jr. Will Atkinson, this is your item.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Will Atkinson, Senior Planner for the record. A majority of this development agreement is focusing on infrastructure associated with the project. We wanted to make sure that we memorialized it related to the offsite wastewater improvements, to the road improvements associated with their drainage. We wanted to make sure there was a masonry fence along Roland Lane, one that wouldn't, usually it's a wooden fence that rots, so we wanted to avoid that. We wanted to take into account a spur of the Vybe Trail and a decorative entrance into the project as well, and everything associated with that. So the other side of it, we also put in some masonry standards that we wanted to enforce from a residential building perspective in that as well.
Sounds good. Any discussion? Just want to add a little bit. I'm glad about the masonry fence, especially when it's adjacent to a rural area. I know we're having an issue right now on a really poorly designed fence and built fence in the city of Kyle against a rural area, and we're having trouble with livestock. So I'm glad that we're, as a city, look at doing something better in this area. So thank you very much for doing that. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item 35. We've got a second by Councilmember Bradshaw. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion passes 5-1. Item number 36, second reading of an ordinance of the City of Kyle, Texas, annexing 176.023 acres of land, more or less located at 5226 Hillside Terrace in Hayes County, Texas, including the abutting streets, roadways, and right-of-ways into the corporate city limits, corporate limits of the city. Mr. Wilkinson is your item as well.
Give me 1 second here. I'll pull up the survey real quick. This is essentially the second reading, as stated, for agenda item number 36. This is one of two annexations associated with the Hillside Terrace Porter Country project. I'll just throw it up on the screen so everybody can get a visual. It will also have an associated zoning following up on this as a next agenda item, and then also the associated development agreement as well.
Okay. Any discussion?
Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve agenda item number 36.
Second.
We got a motion by Councilmember Tobias, second by Councilmember Ellison. Any discussion?
Sure.
Councilmember Ellison?
I just want to say, I know there's been a number of different conversations about this particular tract. I was very pleased that one particular thing in general, there was a lot of good things that were added and discussed to make this project to the gold standard that we expect here in Kyle. But I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Mr. McElrath for your efforts with the adjacent property owners and even in developments next to your project that have nothing to do with you, and to work to try to be good neighbors. And I certainly respect that, and I appreciate that. And so I like to support this.
Any other discussion? We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 5-0. All right. Item number 37, second reading of an ordinance of the City of Kyle annexing 82.951 acres of land, more or less, located at FM 2001, approximately 500 north of Windy Hill Road in Hayes County, Texas, including the abutting streets, roadways, and right-of-ways into the corporate limits of the city. Will Atkins is your item as well.
So this is the remaining portion of the two annexations related to the Porter Country project. And I'll just throw it up there on the screen just real quick. Bear with me just a moment. All right, so everything in the yellow boundary. The red is just what was annexed for wrapping it up. And so the yellow boundary is the rest of it.
Discussion, Councilmember Kell.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 37.
Second.
We've got a motion by Councilmember Kell, a second by Councilmember Ellison. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, agenda item number 38. First reading of ordinance amending Chapter 53 zoning of the city of Kyle, Texas for the purpose of rezoning approximately 259 acres of land from Agriculture A to Planned Unit Development PUD for a property located at 5260 Hillside Terrace at Hays County, Texas. Will Atkinson, this is your item?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Will Atkinson, Senior Planner for the record. I've thrown the PUD zoning map specifically up on the screen. This is the zoning following the two annexations. It is a planned unit development, which means there's flexibility built into it from a code perspective. They have approximately 257 acres of R1A and 1.7 acres of retail services in the middle of the project. So around it, there's going to be different styles of residences, some of them alley loaded and some of them not, different sized lots. They're going to have a massive, massive public park with the Vybe trail system in it. And they've also scattered other public parks and private parks associated into the project as well. They have a lot of streetscape improvements they're going to do. And overall, this project it's a really nice project. We've been working with them for over a year on it. And so we're pleased to present this.
This item has a public hearing. We'll now open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward now. Seeing none, we will now close the public hearing. Any discussion? Councilmember Ellison?
So once again, second the statements I made earlier, but there is a pond in this development, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we've talked about is in our budget workshops as well as other places with aeration of the pond. Is that to be expected in this pond as well?
Yes, sir, that is proposed to be an aerated pond at a constant water level, so it can serve as a full-time amenity and not just a detention pond during heavy rainfall events.
Fantastic. And just for the record, for those watching, he did confirm that. So with that being said, I'd like to approve the agenda item as written.
Second.
We've got a motion by Councilmember Ellison, second by Councilmember Kell. Any more discussion? I just want to thank Councilmember Ellison for bringing that forward. It's something that's always needed in our ponds, and it's for safety reasons as well. So thank you for bringing that forward. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. Nope. Any objection? Seeing there's none, we finally passed. Oh, it just have to be second? Oh, I'm sorry. All right, thank you, Scott. We'll bring it back. All right. Item number 39, consider and possible action on a development agreement by and between the City of Kyle, Texas and Hillside Terrace Development LLC. Attorney Barba, where? It's page signs.
Yeah. Will can take it, I can take it.
Okay.
Either way.
I can talk about it a little bit, and if you want
Go
to
ahead.
expound, that's
Yeah.
fine too,
Why don't you
whatever
start
you want to
us
do. This is a combination of a development agreement related to their special financing district with the PID, and also a lot of subdivision-related improvements that we asked them to do as well for on-site and off-site, with a large focus on the Vybe. They are doing a massive, massive extension of our Vybe trail system, plus providing money for areas that they can't get to extend it down to Windy Hill Road. And the allowance for a public infrastructure district to account for that is making this project fantastic. So that's it in a nutshell.
Sounded good to me.
Okay.
Sounds good. Any discussion? Councilmember Parsley?
I just wanted to say thank you to Hillside Terrace developers, because you guys did a great job explaining everything, changing the things that needed to be changed, and listening to council's concerns. At least that's the impression. So you guys are bringing a great project that I am very excited to see being accomplished. So thank you so much for that.
Councilmember Tobias?
Okay, in section D, it says the parties intend that the water service to the property will be provided by Gulf Force Special Utility Service. Will there be, I guess, in the time we get to negotiate rates with them? I mean, that's where the water's going to be coming from them.
Yeah, it's a private utility where they'll be receiving their water.
Any other discussion? Do we have a motion? Councilmember Ellison?
I'd like to move to approve the agenda item as written.
We have a motion by Councilmember Ellison. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Bradshaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 40, consider possible action of a resolution of the City of Kyle, Texas approving and amending to the Kyle 57 Public Improvement District within the City of Kyle, Texas pursuant to Chapter 372 of the Texas Local Government Code. This item has a public hearing. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Mayor Pro Tem Council, John Snyder with P3 Works, the city's PID administrator for the record. Council had previously accepted a petition increasing the estimated cost of the public improvements from $8 million to $9 million and calling the public hearing. So this is the public hearing and then ultimately the vote to amend the public improvement district from $8 million to $9 million.
Okay. This item has a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll now close the public hearing. Any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Just to clarify, Mr. Snyder, could you just briefly say what the additional costs will do with the improvements?
Sure. So it's really increasing the cap from $8 million to $9 million. The actual what's going to be in the offering document, I think, is closer to $8,358,000. So the cap is $9 million. If there's interest savings or something, that might go up slightly, but we're anticipating it being closer to the $8.3 million number. And those costs, it's not additional improvements. It's really related to cost overruns that have been going on.
Any other discussion? Motion to approve? Councilor Bradshaw. We have a motion by go ahead. Okay, 40. We've got a motion by Councilmember Bradshaw.
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Tobias. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. All right, item number 41, consideration and possible action on a resolution approving and amending to the Kyle 57 Public Improvement District financing agreement within the City of Kyle pursuant to Chapter 372 of the Texas Local Government Code. Any discussion? Would you like to say presentation?
It's really the same thing. It's just amending the financing agreement to make it match, and then also adding in representations that are required by statute, like the non-boycott of Israel and things along those lines.
Sounds good. Councilmember Ellison?
Chair, motion to approve agenda item 41 is written.
Second.
We've got a motion by Councilmember Ellison, second by Councilmember Parsley. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Agenda item 47, consider impossible action. I mean, 42, sorry, because it's getting late, my eyes are going out. Yeah. Well, I've been working all day and reading, so yeah, definitely. It's only 9, wow. My God, I really thought it was a lot later than that. Sorry, I haven't looked up at the clock. Consideration and possible action on approval of the completion agreement with Kyle 57 Development. John Snyder?
Yep. So this is the completion agreement. This is effectively guaranteeing that the infrastructure that's contemplated to be financed with the PID is going to be completed. And so the way that this works is we're estimating it's about a $1.1 million delta between the total cost of the improvements and what can be funded by the bonds. They have to put that in the ground first before they can start drawing on the project fund. So we know that between the money that's already been spent in the ground and the project fund, we can get the infrastructure completed.
Any discussion? Councilmember Tobias?
I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to approve as written.
Do we have a second? Okay. Got a motion by Councilmember Tobias, second by Councilmember Bradshaw. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes 6-0. Item number 43, consideration and possible action on the resolution approving the form of an authorizing the distribution of a preliminary limited offering memorandum for City of Kyle, Texas Special Assessment Revenue Bonds, Series 2022. It was a Public Improvement District. John Snyder, this is yours as well.
Great. So this is the preliminary limited offering memorandum for the bonds. As I mentioned, it was about $8,358,000. This is summarizing the full transaction, and if there's any specific questions, you've got the whole team here, from the developer to FMS Bonds, RBC Capital Markets, and Bickerstaff, Heath, Delgado, Acosta as bond counsel.
Any discussion? Any questions? All right. Motions? Councilmember Ellison.
Motion to approve agenda item 43 is written.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Ellison and a second by Councilmember Parsley. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion passes 6-0. Sorry. I lost my train of thought. All right. Item number 44, consider and possible action on a resolution accepting a preliminary service and assessment plan for the Kyle 57 Public Improvement District, directing the filing of a proposed assessment roll for the Public Improvement District, approving the publications of notice of the public hearing to consider an ordinance levying assessments on the property located within the said Public Improvement District that is specifically benefited by the improvements being finance, directing city staff and publish of mail notices of said public hearing and resolutions, other matters indicated and related therefore, and providing an effective date. John Snyder, this is your item as well.
Thank you. So this is the preliminary service and assessment plan. This doesn't actually levy the assessments. It's really, the purpose is we're going to file this. So if anybody has any questions, it'll be noticed in the newspaper and also notice sent out to all property owners. If they have questions, they can come in and inspect the service and assessment plan and assessment roll. This document will be updated after we have final pricing. So in 2 weeks, they'll actually price the bonds. We'll take that pricing information, update all the numbers in the document that afternoon, and then that'll be presented to council the same evening.
Do we have any discussion? Scott, what action do we have to do? This is just a reading, or do we have to take action on it?
It needs to be approved. The
It has
resolution needs to be approved.
The resolution has to be approved? Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve 44 as written.
We've got a motion by Councilmember Tobias and a second by Councilmember Bradshaw. Any other discussion?
Just real
All those
quick.
Go ahead.
So when we do the publication, is that going to be like through in the newspaper or social media, or is it going to be posted signs, or just how would that go about?
So it'll be in the newspaper and also mailed to all property owners
Mailed to all property owners. Okay.
within the district.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. Item number 44, calling a public hearing to issue special assessment revenue bonds in the Kyle 57 Public Improvement District. John Snyder?
Really nothing to add on that. It's simply calling a public hearing to issue the bonds.
Sounds good. So no action needed. Councilmember Ellison.
We need to make a motion, though, correct? So in its agenda item 45.
45.
That we're on.
Okay.
Motion to approve agenda item 45 is written.
Got a motion by Councilmember Ellison, second by Councilmember Bradshaw. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes 6-0. Okay. So we've got to go back to, okay, Daniela, would you mind? And just the items that we're lacking. It's just one item, just the.
Okay.
Pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, the City Council reserves the right to convene into executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting. The City Council may convene into executive session pursuant to any lawful exception contained in Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, including any or all of the following topics.
How are you?
It's the 4, right? Okay, it's with pending and contemplated litigation or to seek the advice of the city attorney pursuant to Section 551.071.
Executive session.
All Stagecoach Road LLC versus City of Kyle, Texas.
So there was no action taken during executive session, be no action taken now. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We've got a motion by Councilmember Tobias, second by Councilmember Parsley. We are now adjourned.